let's go to landing now. Yep, we're going to go to landing. What we're going to do here is we're going to import a function called connect from React-Redux. Now what we're going to do is we're going to write this function called map state to props. Map state to props. It's going to take in state, and it's going to return an object. Now, something that people get kind of confused with here is if you have a one-liner object that you want to return, like let's say it was just like search term colon state.search term. This is technically not valid JavaScript, despite the fact that it really, really looks like it should be valid JavaScript. Well, what do curly braces mean in this particular case? It means the beginning of a body, a function body, right? It doesn't mean an object. So it's expecting me to put like stuff in here like console.log, whatever, or I don't know, stuff like that. Really common mistake to make with React or with ES6 arrow functions, and it's just because curly braces mean more than one thing, right? And in this particular case, they mean function bodies. So if we wrap this in parentheses with the letter I, just kidding, that's a joke. If you wrap it with parentheses, then you're letting it know, no, I actually mean to return an object literal here, right? Does that make sense why I put parentheses around it and why they're there? Okay, cool. So what this function does is it takes the whole state of Redux, right? That's what this state is. And it pulls out just the thing that this component cares about. You don't want to be passing around the state of Redux willy-nilly, right? Like that's a bad idea, promise. This is going to pull out just the things that you need, and it's going to inject them as a prop into your component. The way that it does that connecting is with, as you may have guessed, the connect function. So we're going to say connect map state to props landing, like that. It's kind of a weird notation, but I will show you why it's in that notation in just a second. But basically, you call connect with map state to props, which returns a function, right? Just this bit right here is a function that when called with something else is going to connect that component. So we could potentially reuse it multiple times. You won't, but you could, right? So that's why there's two function calls here. The first bit is going to be what you're going to use to pull out state, and the second bit is going to be the component. Does that make sense? So let me show you why that is actually the way it is. How many of you have heard of decorators? Super cool. They're one of the things I'm most excited about upcoming in JavaScript. They come, like if you write a lot of Python, inevitably you end up writing a lot of decorators, right? There's a lot of other languages that have these really cool language features called decorators. So what we could do here if we could use decorators, which we can't, but what you would do is it would look like this. You would say up here, above landing, this is actually, we'd have to convert this to a class. So pretend just for a second that I had converted this to a class. I would say class landing extends react.component, or component, whatever. I don't care, component, and like there was a bunch of useful stuff in here, right? Can we all pretend momentarily, because I don't want to have to rewrite it, just to go back. So if this was an ES6 class, we could put @connect map state to props, like that. And then suddenly, rather than doing this kind of awkward looking thing down here, this landing would just automatically be connected to it. So basically, this is going to get passed in, which is going to return a function which is going to run on the result of the landing class. This is called a decorator, right? This is going to be stage 2 or stage 3 proposal for JavaScript. So it's most likely going to make it because everyone's pretty excited about it, me included. I'm really excited for the day I can use this. You can actually do this right now with the Babel transform. The issue is that Flow doesn't understand decorators yet. So we're not going to do it today, but you'll see lots of people out there using decorators this way. So I wanted to make you aware that you may see it, and it's also something to be excited about, in my opinion. But for today, we're just going to stick with the normal way of calling connect. So that's why I wanted to say that connect has this weird way of looking, right, where it looks like this. Connect, map state to props. Because they did it like this, that's how a decorator works anyway. So they didn't have to make 2 functions, right? They didn't have to make a connect decorator and a connect function. They were able to just reuse both of those. Any questions about that? It's just kind of an aside, but it's something I'm excited about, so I wanted to share.
It's just whatever function follows, or whatever constructor
so
class follows.
The @connect is going to return a function that's going to be called on the class.
Whatever is next. Because you didn't explicitly say, like,
right, you don't explicitly, it's called on your behalf, right? The connect function is going to be called by the language, the result. Right, and you don't, this, like, I had @connect map state to props, right? But they're going to be decorators like @auth, right? That's just going to look like that, and it doesn't necessarily have to return a function. Well, wait, let me phrase that. It doesn't have to be a function that you call that returns a function, right? It could just be a function.
So is that almost like constructors and destructors in C++ or something like that, where you've got a class object and there's something that's called either during instantiation or when it exits? Or?
Okay, so yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. I'm going to say no comment on it because I don't actually know enough exactly how or exactly what connection you're going to make with that. But I will say that like it's just providing additional functionality in a declarative fashion, right? So if I had something like this where I was calling like .@auth, it would basically mean something like you can't construct this unless it's authorized, right? So you're just kind of declaring it's like this must be authed, right? And then you can just kind of go about your way of doing that, right? And this is going to work both on whole classes, like I showed you here, and also on individual methods. So that's probably where that would be. Like you could have like a route on your router, and then you just say @auth, and it's like the user can't call this method unless they're authorized, right? So it's kind of declaring in that particular sense. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, so that's enough about decorators. They're super exciting, but not yet. They're not yet exciting.